25. Most of the time, left Alaman and then do-side-do. Left Alaman with the ring. I was a young troubadour. Swing, promenade. I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone.
All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, I'm back in Canada.
Yay.
I'm back at home currently, but we're talking to a young lady in Canada. Tonight, I have Wendy VanderMeulen. How are you, ma'am?
I'm very good. How are you, Charlie?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Now, did I say your name correctly?
You said it exactly right. Congratulations.
Fantastic. And I don't think I didn't tell you this before we started going or anything like that. You're one of the first people that I met in Caller Lab. Way back when my first Caller Lab that I went to was New Mexico, I think. New Mexico or Arizona, whichever one was first.
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. I think we'd made contact on Facebook, and you were one of the first persons that I knew in Caller Lab. So a little something I didn't think about that till we got on here tonight. So how have you been?
Good.
Very nice. Where are you in Canada?
I am just outside of Ottawa, Ontario, the capital city. I'm about 45 miles southeast, so 65 kilometers southeast of the capital. So a little village called St. Albert, population about between 500 and 600.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, have you been there your whole life?
It'll be 15 years in July. It'll be 15 years in July.
Where are you originally from? Where were you born?
My hometown is Whitby, Ontario, which is a town just east of Toronto.
Okay.
About 80 kilometers east of Toronto. That's 60 miles, something like that, east of Toronto.
Okay.
So at the moment, we're closer to Montreal than to Toronto, considerably. Yeah.
And as I was telling you, I broke out all the Canadian stuff that I have, my Toronto Blue Jays hat. And this is a shirt from a TV show called Letterkenny. Don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I haven't.
Okay.
And all I can see is the Canadian flag, and then it says How
are you now?
How are you now? How are you now? That sounds that sounds Texan, actually.
And I will tell you too, and I've a few people know this about me. My grandmother is from Newfoundland, and that's where she was born and raised. And then, of course, she moved. I guess she got married to my grandfather when she was 22. So really long time ago, and ended up moving down to Georgia where we live now. So I have a little bit of Canadian there on that side from the Newfoundland.
Good.
So, all right. Well, we are here because we are both Square Dance callers. Let's start off with how I start with everybody. When did you start square dancing? How long ago? How old were you?
How old was I? 25.
And what got you into that?
Well, I met this guy at work who was a square dance caller.
Oh, okay.
Had never heard of it.
Wow.
Never. Okay. And it was like, well, the club's doing a demo in the park. Why don't you come and check it out? So I did, and I signed up for lessons that September, and I've been dancing ever since then. And that was September 1983. Been dancing ever since. Just finished my 41st year of dancing.
So, a lot of people, and of course, I was the same way. I started when I was about 25-ish. When my son was 3 is how I keep track of it. But and I knew what square dancing was. Did it like everybody else says. I did it for a little bit in elementary school. I have a vague memory of it. Yeah. But no family or anything. My in-laws are the ones that got me into dancing when I started. So with nothing in the past, when did you start calling, or when did you think you might want to try and call?
Well, I never thought I'd like to try to call, to be honest. How it all started was, I guess, in my 16th year of dancing, somewhere around there, 16th year of dancing or so. My husband, who's a caller, bought a singing call. Okay. He had also just recently bought himself a Jaguar car.
Okay.
He always had one as a kid, you know, ones refix, like fix ups, and had always dreamed of having a brand new one. So he finally bought himself a Jaguar, and then lo and behold, one day we go to club, and I mean, I never paid any attention to him practicing his music or listening to what. I didn't know anything. I'm just like a dancer when we get there. He pulls out this singing call. I love you, honey. I love your money. I love your automobile. So as soon as that song was over, I went up to him and said, next time you pull that song out, I should do the singing parts. You do the calls and I'll do the singing parts. That would just make more sense, right?
Right.
So we started doing that, and people started coming up to me. You have such a nice singing voice. You should learn to call. And I says, well, just because I have a nice singing voice doesn't mean I should call. Wasn't the least bit interested. So we kept doing this singing call, People kept saying that, it. So finally, in the summer of 2000, we'd done a few workshops for newer callers in the area, and I would help John. John was the caller, the instructor, and I was just there to assist and whatever. So summer of 2000, we were doing another one, and it's like, you know what? I'll sit in as a student this time. Why not? Find out what's going on, what's all. Loved it. Had so much fun. Started calling. And the rest is history, as they say. So my first calling wasn't a gig. We used to do a fall. It was a fundraiser for the local, up here we call them a mission for homeless people. They provide foods and accommodations and stuff. So we did an annual dance, and it was all the callers in the area would take a turn. It was a night of singing calls, and everybody got to do one, and that was about it. So I did one and was complimented on it. So it's like, oh, okay. So in January of 2001, I started calling, started teaching people. Yeah.
So do you remember your first singing call? You remember what that was?
Absolutely. Now I say, sure, I did. Let me see. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise?
Sea cruise, okay.
That's it.
I know it.
That was it.
I know it.
Yeah. I had my own little travel business at the time and loved going on cruises. So when that singing call popped up, it's like, oh, it was the first one I bought.
Made for you, yeah.
First one
That's
I bought.
awesome.
First one.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So when you got into it, now it's your husband being a caller already. I'm assuming he's part mentor there, but anybody else help you along the way? Kind of say, hey, maybe you should look at it this way or that.
Not really. Not really. We have a very good callers association here, and whenever we have newer callers in our area that start coming to our meeting, all the meetings shift to focus on the new callers.
Nice.
So right from the get-go, I had the support of the local callers. They're all very good about that, helping new ones. Went to several caller schools. The first one was with Mike Jacobs and Randy Page.
Okay.
I don't remember what year it was. I started calling in 21, so it was probably 22, maybe like 2002. Sorry, 2002. And then I've been to Ken Ratusi's Northeast Caller School.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I love that one.
Yeah, so I go there now just because I have so much fun going there. It's kind of like, for me, it's an annual thing that I do. I go there just because it's fun. Yeah.
I think this year's 20 years for him on this one.
Yep.
This is a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. So not any one person didn't mentor me. It's just all these different things put together. And he would comment from time to time. Okay. But to never actually, and we'd talk, but we never sat down and said, well, you should do it this way and stuff like that. We didn't really do that.
When do you think you started doing your first actual dances, just you?
The first actual, it was a long time because I did mostly teaching.
Okay.
To begin with, because I'm of personal, and I got this from my husband, John. I'm of the personal belief that the best way to learn to call is to teach dancers. And because you start calling, I always tell the new people, it's like you start by saying circle left. And when you're comfortable with that, you say circle right. And when you're comfortable with that, you say do-si-do or whatever, so because callers can learn step by step, just like the dancers learn. Start at the bottom and work your way up. Because as long as you know more than your dancers, mind you, I'd been dancing for 16 years, and every one of those 16 years, we were doing a basic class. So I had a pretty good idea of how to do it. So
yeah, it's good to have a base like that for sure. And teaching does make a world of difference, because I came at it from a different direction. I called for I danced for a really long time, but I started calling, and then I just started focusing on the calling. Never got to teach because I didn't have my own club or anything at the time. And Tony Oxendine, one of my mentors, he told me that for probably 3 years solid, Charlie, you've got to teach. You have got to teach. If you want to be better at this, you've got to teach. And I understood it. And now that I've done it, I've taught probably 4 full classes now from my club that we have now, whether it be beginners or plus classes, things like that. And you see the calls differently when hey, tonight I'm going to work on these 5 or 6. You pick out whatever you're doing and go through all the movements, And
you learn a step at a time how to put the calls together.
Mm-hmm.
Because my first calling, it was a class. I approached the city of Ottawa and to become part of their recreation program. I said, this is what I want to do. Would you be okay trying to set something up? So they said, sure. So we did that. So the first time they did all the work, but I had a lot of fellow dancers come out and help. But I did it was a 10-week introduction to square dancing. And I maybe did basic A. I don't remember exactly how far I got. When that was done, I did it again. When that was done, I did it again. And then that third introduction expanded it and became, now we're going to finish the basics. So I did the first basic A 3 times before I moved on to basic B and did that. And then at that time, then I was asked to do the basic class for a local club that I still call for to this day.
Wow.
So yeah, it's one step at a time. I mean, you start at the bottom and work your way up. I mean, I really feel sorry for guys that are learning to call and feel like they have to be able to do the whole plus list before they've done anything. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, you really know you have to know how to put calls together, and teaching a class does. Another thing that I picked up on, and I'd heard from several people who've taught for years, is you learn to move people to get them back to where you want them quickly, rather than say, hey, everybody go back to where you started. You can't do that if you're teaching a class. You put whatever calls that you've taught together to get them back. And what that does is somewhere in the back of your brain, that's building just this
absolutely
file cabinet of, hey, this is how I can get that person over there if I need to, without calling the same, Ferris wheel scissors passer. So a lot to be said there. Now, on this one, I don't ask a lot of people this, but if you could do anything differently from when you started calling, is there anything you do differently?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
You actually, I thought about that question a while back when I was thinking about stuff to talk about on podcast. And I would go more into the patter and the teaching in the beginning of my calling, if I could go back and change something. Where you did that, you started with the teaching.
I started that way, but like I say, I had been dancing for 16 years in a basic class.
Very nice.
Every year, yeah. So I did both right from the get-go. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Now, and like I said, that when we first met, it was Caller Lab. When did you get involved with Caller Lab? When did that start?
I can never remember.
Okay.
I don't know. It wasn't too long after I was learning to call. Maybe started officially calling in 2001. We were involved with a group called Legacy. I don't know if you remember that from way back. It's now the Arts. Okay. So Legacy grew into the Arts, and we were involved in that through Doc and Penny. Can't remember their names now. It's been that long ago. Anyway, so we were involved in that, and that they were always invited to Caller Lab, so that representatives from Legacy could go to Caller Lab. So we went to Caller Lab early on. I think I'm not even sure I must have been calling by then. And had a great time and was impressed with, I remember chatting with Jerry Story. Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Yeah.
It's like, he's a normal human being, you know, right?
Yep.
He's, you think of him like this, and it's like, we just had a nice chat. It was awesome. So that really impressed me. And then so we went there as representatives for Legacy, I think twice. And then I was getting more into my calling career, and I decided that as a caller, I had a responsibility to be a member of Caller Lab. It's we're professionals, even if we're not like paid millions of dollars, right?
Yep.
We're not
Absolutely.
professional baseball players, but we're professional square dance callers, however you want to do it. And I think you have a responsibility to be a member of your professional organization.
Absolutely.
So the year 2007 seems to kind of, but I'm not 100% certain. I can never remember.
Now, I ask a lot of people about venues, something that stands out to you, your favorite place to call. Do you have any halls or anything, whether it be your home club or where you traveled around, anything that stands out as just a fun place or a little different place of venue?
Well, a different place, definitely. A year and a half ago, on my way to the Northeast Caller School, I had an invitation to stop and dance for the Shoe Leather Express in New York. And
Okay.
I don't know if you know Elaine and Dennis.
Yes, I do.
They bought a church,
Uh-huh.
renovated the church. So I got to call in this big, huge church hall, which was just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it was amazing. It was quite the place, quite the place. So that's certainly the most unusual place I've ever called in, and it's a beautiful spot.
I would love to get over there, up there at some point. I've spoken to them several times, whether it be Caller Lab or a couple caller schools we've attended together. And yeah, they told me about the church and everything they redid. I would love to get up there at some point. And they've invited me up. I just don't know when I'll be able to get up, but at some point I will. That's awesome. I'm glad I talked to somebody who's actually called there other than them, because I heard it's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's great. Now, and I haven't asked this of anybody else currently. Of all the call,
I feel so special.
I keep going back to Caller Lab because I just remembered right before we started talking that was where I first met you. Does any Caller Lab or say national convention stand out to you as something, your favorite one or anything like that? Location or anything?
For Caller Lab, no, because generally I go for the meetings and I don't see anything else around the area anyway, so it doesn't really matter where they are so much. Although Richmond, Virginia was nice. I managed to do a city tour, so that was kind of nice. But
I really like
Richmond. Yeah, generally I don't get out of the hotel, so the location doesn't really matter so much. Anything stand out as far as location for nationals? I guess the one that stands out is Minneapolis, St. Paul in 2004. We drove there. It was going to be so much fun. It was an excuse for a holiday. We drove there. John had just got his Jaguar. Okay? We were taking it on a road trip. Second day in. So we stayed at a bed and breakfast. Next day, we stayed at a little motel place. The next day, it's like, I'm beginning to not feel very good. Spent 2 nights in Thunder Bay to do some sightseeing, and I'm sick.
Okay.
We got to Minneapolis. I spent 95% of the convention in my hotel room, going from a cold bath because I had the sweats to cuddling under a cover because I was freezing cold. And the only reason I actually even went to anything at the convention was because, we were there representing Legacy and we had to do a presentation. So I went there for one afternoon, did the presentation. I think I danced one tip.
Yeah.
Went out for lunch. Hot day. Like it was 100. I swear it was over 90 for sure. Humid. We go to this restaurant with a few people and I had chili for lunch because I was freezing cold.
Wow.
And then we drove home, and the last 2 days, like we were gone all together for 9 days, I think, 9 days. The last 2 days on the drive home, I felt fine.
Wow.
So So it was very memorable. It wasn't pleasant, but it was the most memorable. The most memorable.
Well, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. Yeah. Any funny stories or anything of all all the time you've been calling or anything stand out to you?
Funny? Well, no, nothing funny.
Okay.
It was, the unfortunate time I went to call and left all my records at home back when I was using records.
Oh, tell me about that. How did you pull that off?
Somebody had, oh no, hang on a second. My CDs. I was using a CD player at the time. Left all my CDs at home. Somebody went to their car and pulled out the CDs they had in their glove box and found a couple of tunes that were danceable, and we danced to like 2 tunes for 2 hours. And then you think I'd learn my lesson? Just like a month ago, went to the dance. I didn't have my computer. And it's like, and I know exactly what happened. Normally I put my computer in the bag, I put my cord in the bag, I put my headset in the bag, put my notes in the bag. Well, I put my headset in the bag and my notes in my bag, and then I put the cord in the bag. So I had the order that I put things in all backwards. So I'd put the last thing in, zipped up the bag and walked out. Should have noticed that it wasn't quite as heavy as it usually is. But so say somebody had a phone, where somebody said, use your phone. And it says, well, I don't have the connector from the phone to my amplifier. So we started dancing about 20 minutes late because somebody had to go home and see if they had the.
Oh, wow.
So then I went to YouTube and says, oh, this dance should be danceable. So let's dance. That was like a month ago. You think I'd learn. But anyway.
Wow, that's good. The closest I came to that, I'm always a nervous wreck when I'm going, because my club that I call for is 52 miles north of me where I live. So it's an hour ride to get there. And it never fails. As soon as I leave the house and I get on the interstate, I'm just like, man, did I put my laptop in? And I'm reaching behind the seat to make sure I can feel all that stuff. Although I know I did. One time I did, it was about 2 months ago. I went out there and I forgot my power cord. And I thought, well, at least it should have a full charge. I get out there and I had about a half battery. And of course, nobody had a charger and I was like, oh, so I had one of the guys who knows about computers. I could barely see the screen. He turned the brightness all the way down, turned everything down as low as you could. And I made it through, thank goodness. Now, I would have gone to my phone because I've got Bluetooth for my powered speakers.
Okay.
That I could have run off my phone, but I certainly don't want to ever try that for a whole day. It's a great day.
No. No.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, some more, and like we were talking, this is about square dancing, but it's about you too, and some of the stuff you like to do. What are you got any favorite foods, drinks, anything like that?
Not really. Favorite drink would be white wine.
Okay.
Never turn down the offer of a glass of white wine.
Very nice. Okay.
Favorite food? No, I like too much.
Now, do you call for just one club? How many clubs do you call for currently?
2. I'm the caller for 2 clubs. One of the clubs I call twice a week. So I do SSD for one club. I do Plus and A1 for another club. Just started A1. I started calling A1 last September.
Very
so
nice.
Brand new for me. I had been doing their SSD, but now they're doing their A1 on the same night as SSD in a separate hall. So they got another caller for them. So they do. So that's 3 nights a week. I'm trying to get another group going in a local town. We ended up doing the same thing this year with the township. So it was part of their recreation program, did a 10-week intro. We'll see if that continues in the fall. People had a good time and most of them say they'll be back. So hopefully that'll become like the way I started way back when, the same sort of thing. Do that a few times until I get enough people to take over the club and have it be mine.
Now, what level do you dance to?
Well, that time, because it was a 10-week introduction, and because it was the township's recreation, we danced in a school. It took 14 weeks to do the 10 weeks because there was spring break, and then there was a professional development day, and then there was a snowstorm, and then it took 14 weeks, and then people had holidays, and I had 15 people registered for it, and I think I had all 15 of them there twice.
Yeah.
So, and you skip a week. and they forgot everything they'd done the time before. And so we didn't get very far. We didn't even get through basic A. Yeah. So we do what we can. They all had a good time. They laughed. So it was fine. It was fine. And then, like say, the dance I had this afternoon is my initiative. It's a once a month open house. So it's 2 hours of dancing on a Sunday, fourth Sunday of the month. Anybody's welcome. I advertise it mostly through Meetup. But there's always local dancers that come out because it's a super easy afternoon of dancing. They don't even have to think, you know. And so typical crowd today, I had 26 people. Probably 12 of them were probably existing square dancers.
Okay.
And then of the other 14, half were people that have been before and half were brand new. So that's generally about what the mix is. Always have brand new people.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I've had quite a few of them. I've been doing it for 2.5 years now, and several of them have come and joined the clubs that I call for that now come.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
which
awesome.
is so officially I call 3 times a week. Depending on the week, it's 4, and it might be 5 depending on the week. Depending on
And with all that, do you have any? You know, and I learned this because when I was just doing a dance a month or a dance every 2 or every couple of weeks for different clubs, you can run the same 5 or 6, 7 songs in pattern because it's not the same people. You cannot do that with a club. And you've got a couple. I have one, and I'm constantly adding to music, changing music, and things like that. Do you have any favorite singing calls, patter, music, anything that you really like?
Well, of course, my favorite singing calls are the ones that I've done with Sharpshooter.
Okay. So tell me some of those.
Okay, with Sharpshooter, I did Honey, I'm Good, which is one of their good songs. Honey, I'm Good. Thumbs, Love the Way You Love Me. Heaven and Cheerleader.
Okay.
And then with Hipster, I did I Lived.
Okay.
So I've done 6. So some of them have done better than others. Honey, I'm Good was definitely by far the best of all of them. And some of them I've done, I don't even use myself anymore because I've got my favorite, because there's so many good, great singing calls out there.
I know there's now, I came in around 2012 or so and started buying music around 2014-ish. And there's so many labels now and so many good, stuff that you can't tell apart from the radio if you're listening to it. Some pattern music is just ridiculous how good it is.
Yeah.
And the singing calls too.
Yeah. Well, and when I first started to call, of course, when I had no music, I was using my husband's music.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, there's some that I pulled out of his record box that I'd never heard him use. So like I'd go through and I'd be listening to stuff. Oh, I like this one. I like this one. And because I've never heard him use them, so they're now mine. Yeah. And the one I used this afternoon to close this afternoon's dance is one that I pulled from him way back when I started calling 23 years ago. And it's still, I love it. It's still a good one. And it's different, a little bit different. So it's a great one to finish dance with.
What is it?
Checking Out. It's called Checking Out. Checking out of this heartbreak hotel. I don't want to live on Lonely Street no more. So like it's an old one. I don't know if it would be, but it's called Checking Out. It's called Checking Out.
I'll have to check it out. Now, when you're not square dance calling, anything like that, what kind of music do you like? What kind of stuff do you like to do music wise, genres?
I'm pretty flexible. Classic rock to a certain extent. I like top 40, that kind of music. I like the current music because I'm constantly thinking like, can you square dance to that?
Yep.
At the moment, I listen to a lot of Christian pop music, which is the same thing. I mean, it's the tunes that really, the tune catches you. The words are good, of course, but we listen to classical music at home a lot, classical and jazz. So it's I'm not big on hip hop or heavy metal, but pretty much anything else.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I like the classic rock. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have
There's
other
a lot
things.
of good music out there in
Something else we
classic
have in
rock.
common. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And there's so many good square dance, with Scott Bennett and
Yeah.
others that are out there that are putting out these 70s redos of songs and all that's just amazing. Of course, throwback tunes with their 80s stuff. It's just some of the music's just incredible right now.
Yeah.
A little bit more about you. Is there anything, a movie that if it's on and you flip the TV on, that everything stops and you have to finish watching it?
Well, we don't have TV. We only have Netflix.
Okay.
So we have a TV, but we don't watch TV.
Okay.
So we watch movies, we watch TV series that come through Netflix and stuff like that. So we don't know what the latest TV shows are.
Okay. Well, what kind of movies are you into? What do you sit down and watch when you want to watch a movie?
Drama, fantasy, a little bit of science fiction, mostly drama, mysteries, that kind of a thing. Yeah. Fast and Furious, that was a great series.
Yep. I think is there 10 of them, 10 or 11 now? And I watched the first one. I just know of the others. I never got into it. Not really a car guy, and I know it's not all about cars. And I know a lot of the actors that I've seen that are in it, but I just never got into it. So.
Yeah, no, we did. I don't think we saw the 10th one, and we didn't see the spin-offs. Like the spin-offs were, I think we watched one of them and decided we'd never do that one. And I don't think we actually even watched the 10th one. I think we just got as far as 9. Okay. But they were fun to watch. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, we've both read that series of books multiple times, and we've seen the movie multiple times.
Okay.
So that's a big one in our place. So yeah, basically it's, for the most part, it's drama. Okay. Every now and then we'll pull out a TV. Like right now we're watching it was a TV series called Monk.
Yeah, I know Monk.
Yeah, with Tony Shalhoub.
Yep, Tony Shalhoub.
Like we're in the middle of watching that. We get a kick out of that one. So
very nice.
That's kind of fun just for a change.
So we've done that. We'll go back, old TV shows. I think my wife has watched The Golden Girls from beginning to end again. Okay. On one of it, because we don't really have TV. We've got all the apps, the streaming apps now, YouTube TV, Netflix, Paramount Plus, all that. And we went back and we thought we would watch all the episodes of Love Boat, all the seasons. But what we didn't realize is today, if a TV show or whatever comes out, there's 10 episodes in a season, typically. Love Boat had 26 episodes. I watched that and Hawaii Five-0. Hawaii Five-0 is as good a TV show as you'll ever watch, I think. And 26 episodes a season, you can't get through that. Those are long. I mean, they're an hour long. Love doing that. I love going back and watching old TV and things like that. Yeah. Now, you've got a few clubs that you call for. You also, I'm sure people hire you out to do dances. What's your process for putting the dance together if it's somewhere that you don't call very often?
I try to pick music. Like I go through like, what kind of music do I have? So I've got classic rock, I've got top 40, I've got alternative, I've got jazz, I've got some gospel, I've got some classic rock, I've got show tunes. So I put my program together where I can find, like, this tip is going to be show tunes. So I pick Hogan's Heroes and for a patter, and I pick whatever for a singing call. So I pair them up like that. I try to do that. That's what I do most of the time. I do try to, the first one is a little not slow, but easy calling, but I mean, it's always a good beat. I'm not a ballad person.
Okay.
By any stretch of the imagination. I usually throw in one tip of country music just because there's always people that like country music. I don't, but okay, to keep those people happy, I'll do a tip of country music. And I do have quite a few, more than the new country. I'd have a couple of really old ones that I pull out sometimes just for the heck of it, but rarely. And that's usually how I do mine. And then I finish with one of my favorite singing calls, and it's one with the grand square, of course. Like I Will Survive is one that I will finish with. Honey, I'm Good is one that I'll finish with. All All That Jazz is one that I will finish
That's
with.
good.
Edge of Glory. Those are some of my
Nice.
big ones that I finish with because they end with a and everybody
Yeah,
goes,
yeah.
so that kind of a thing. So
Very nice. If you could call anywhere in the world that you haven't called, or any place, where would you like to call?
well, Germany. I don't think I'm not nearly good enough to call there,
Gotcha.
but I would love to be able to be good enough to call there and put on a good dance. I don't think I ever will, but that would be something to do.
Yep. Germany was never really on my radar until I started talking to people from Germany and meeting callers from around here. I didn't know how many people went to Germany and called. Now it absolutely is. I'd love to go to Germany. I'd always heard about Japan, and wanted to call in Japan just because everybody says that's where you go. But now Germany's definitely on the radar. I would love to get over there and call at some point.
I want to go over there to dance.
Yeah.
Like I say, because I'm as much as I say I would love to go there and call sometime, I know I will never be good enough to do that but I would love to go there and dance because boy, that's got to be so awesome. Good dancing going on.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
I imagine at some point you'll get over there. I would really try to figure out a way to go for the mini caller lab, the mini lab they're having over there,
Yeah.
but I just cannot swing it. I've got so many other things. Plus, it's
It's pretty expensive.
it's not going to be cheap getting there and back. On top of what I've already planned for this year. That being said, now, are you going to be in Wisconsin for the Nationals?
No.
Nope.
No, because we've got the Canadian Nationals this year.
Okay.
And I have to pick, like I've limited income. I have to pick what I want to do. So every year it's Caller Lab.
Yep.
And every other year is the Canadian. And in between, well, I do want to go to the callers, like the Northeast Caller School every year, because that's a fun little thing. And then I have to do something with my husband every now and then. So it's like, so
Yeah,
I've decided that, I'm probably, unless the National is really like super close to home that I can like drive across the border, I probably won't be going to them because Caller Lab's my priority.
Gotcha. Yeah, Caller Lab's going to be a push for. I'm in South Carolina. That's a long way from y'all.
Yeah, I know. I'm still going to try and convince my husband to go down there with me and drive because we haven't done a long drive holiday since that one I was sick on 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do that again, but we'll see. I'll fly if I have to.
Yeah, I am. I'm driving to Wisconsin for the Nationals. I'm driving, and it's 11 and a half hours, I think. I'm going to go to Indiana, probably spend the night, and then go in on Sunday. So I'm going for GSI. That's the main thing.
Okay.
And then, so doing that for sure. So definitely going to Caller Lab. Now, when I started this and I told you it's about square dance calling, do you have any advice for other callers or anything like that, whether they be new callers or people that have been around for a while? Anything that kind of you live by?
Well, the only thing I can say is don't be afraid of other callers.
Gotcha.
Don't be intimidated by them because everybody started somewhere. And like I say, and the fact that, and I say this because of that conversation I had with Jerry's story, and finding out that no matter how much you look up to a caller, they're still human.
Yep.
And they still like people and they still, generally I think would want to help. And because of our local callers association, like some of the new callers that come in will talk in front of other new callers. Oh, we came here and there we were with so-and-so and so-and-so. And it's like, I never let that bother me. And probably because I had a caller husband to begin with, but it was like, when I went there, like, I'm a caller, they're helping me. We're working together to make this thing work. So don't be intimidated. Like that would be the best thing that I could say. And it's easy to say, I know it's harder to do. Some people, but don't be intimidated. We're all just human. We all started somewhere.
That is great advice. It is. And I've told several people on this podcast that, in the years that I've been calling now, 10, 11 years, probably really getting out there and traveling around a little bit, really no bad experiences with other callers, meeting them around. I'm just like police work. And I've told people, you get 100 callers in the room. There's a couple of not nice people in that group. Very few, just like any other group. If you got that many plumbers, in the place. You're going to have a couple that are going to be a problem, but on the whole, Square Dance callers, just amazing people. And dancers are right there with them. You know, the first thing that got me is you can walk into most any dance hall. Ladies can lay their purse down. I can lay my cell phone down in a chair and walk out into the middle of a floor of 60 to 100 people and dance and not be concerned that my phone is going to be gone when I get back, you know. And there's very few places you can do that anymore. So I'm not saying something bad couldn't happen, but it's rare, you know, something like that. So it's a great group of people. I'm certainly proud to be a part of it. And I've made a lot of good relationships based on calling and the dancing part of it. Well, Wendy, have we covered anything else you want to talk about on that?
Just one thing about calling.
Okay, go ahead.
And that was the most exciting thing that I would say in my calling career.
Okay.
Was way back when the first time I was asked to call in the US. It's like, oh, wow, you know, my friends in New England, I've got several friends in New England, you know, that, well, you're going to call, you invited me to call for the club, which was great fun. And that was but the most exciting part, they asked me back.
Nice. Okay.
It's like, you know, because you're so sure that nobody's going to like what I do. And then they asked me back. That was, to this day, that was the most exciting thing for me, to actually, they liked me well enough to have me back again.
Wow. That's awesome.
Like it was, and it still is every time I dance in a new place, it's like, even, you know,
I agree.
So if you get asked back, that's the icing on the cake, man.
That, you know, and we're talking about dancers and callers. That's the one thing I've noticed. A dancer will be the first one to come up and say something they don't like about what you're doing. A caller won't do that. You know, now they might go tell another caller about it, but I've had more dancers come up and say, I think you're way too fast, or yeah, you're just too loud. And, you know, something I'm like, all right, well, I'll see if I can change that for you.
Yeah.
You know, but rarely do you have a caller that will come up and say something like, especially, you know, I've had them after a dance say, knowing that I'm newer as far as callers, hey, Charlie, maybe you should try and do this next time, you know, but it's after the dance, you know.
Oh, okay.
But a dancer will come right up to you in the middle of patter and be like, hey, you're way too fast. And I'm like, okay, can we talk about it after I get through with this? It's only going to be about another 3.5 minutes. Just let me finish. So yeah, you know, it's great when a dancer or a group, a club asks you back. I mean, that's just the ultimate. If you can get other dances off of that, that's awesome. Yeah. That's the main thing when I go to, whether it be a state convention, you know, I try to go to as many as I can, or national conventions. If I book a dance based off of, and I went to South Carolina a month and a half ago, and I booked 2 dances in South Carolina before I left there. And that was just awesome. And they were just like, hey, man, we really like that singing call you did. And I thought, okay, you liked it enough that I booked the dance, and that's awesome. And it just makes you feel good when people approach you like that. So. Absolutely. Yeah. Wendy, it has been a true pleasure. I'm so happy we got to do this. We had to reschedule last time because I had a conflict and I was out of town. And but I'm super happy we got to do this. Sorry, I will not see you at Nationals. I guess I'll have to hold off until South Carolina.
That's right.
And the upside for me, South Carolina, is only about a 3-hour drive from me. So finally, it's somewhere close by.
Lucky for you. Yeah.
Yeah, because all the other ones have been a ride so far. Virginia wasn't bad. But all the others have been way out there. So really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'd love to do this again at some point, you know, when we go back, and maybe after we get through Caller Lab next year, you can tell me about how this past year's been for you. Tell me about some of those the dances you went back and did again. So.
All right. I'll start taking notes.
All right, Wendy. It's great talking to you. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Side space, grand square, I still feel 25. Most of the time, I still raise a little Cain with the boys. Alaman left and we honky tonks and pretty women. Lord, I'm still above the crowd and the noise. Four ladies chain